Now that it's the new year, everyone's talking about detoxing and cleansing. My personal belief is that a healthy diet is built from one day to the next, from one meal to another, without guilt or having to go on an extreme diet. But I also know there are times when we can overindulge in foods like sugar or alcohol, and so going on a short detoxifying diet or even incorporating more detoxifying foods can help feel us more energetic and healthy overall. So I am really excited to share this beet juice recipe using a juicer today. A few videos ago, I did share my beet juice recipe using a blender, and I got a few comments that said that it was really messy and that I should be using a juicer. And I actually do have a juicer, but I did want to show in that video how you can make juice even if you don't have a juicer. So today I'll be using my Omega masticating juicer, and having a juicer is definitely the easiest and most efficient way to make homemade vegetable juice. And if you're new to juicing or you're still thinking about getting a juicer, I want to point you to an article on my website, cleaneatingkitchen.com, that goes through, I think, 4 different types of juicers and how to pick the right one for your needs and your budget. And I will link that article in the description box below. So let's get into making this beet juice recipe. So the first step to making any type of homemade vegetable juice is having to prep your vegetables. And since we're making beet juice today, of course, I'm starting with 3 large organic red beets. And the first step is to prep the beets by pulling off the beet greens. I just twist them off using my hands. And you can save your beet greens. I personally don't care for beet greens. I find them to be too bitter, but I know a lot of people use them in stir fries, or you could even steam them and use them in a green smoothie. Next, we're going to put the beets in a colander and then just use a sponge to scrub any dirt off of the beets. The next step in this vegetable juice recipe is to wash a bunch of carrots. And if your carrots come with greens, you can also just pull those greens off. And again, you can use them in recipes. I usually don't use them. They're usually really full of dirt, but you can. They are edible. The next step is to wash our apples. And today I think I'm using Fuji apples or Honeycrisp. Those are my 2 favorite apple types. You could also use green apples. And you can use either 1 apple or 2 apples, or leave the apples out altogether. The apples are the richest source of natural sugars in this juice recipe. So if you're on a very low sugar diet, then you can just leave the apples out altogether. I'm using 2 apples because the sweeter I make the juice, the more likely it is that I can get my husband to drink it. Then we're going to wash the lemon or the lime. You can use either one in this recipe. Then we're going to prep our celery for juicing by cutting off each end of the celery and then washing the celery ribs. And then we're just gonna give a big bunch of flat leaf parsley a good rinse. After we all have all our fruits and vegetables washed, then it's time to prep them and get them all into pieces that will fit through the feeding tube of our juicer. So first I cut my apples into thin slices. My feeding tube for my Omega juicer is really only about 1.5 inches wide, so I do have to make sure to cut my veggies into pieces that will fit into that feeding tube. And then next we're gonna cut our carrots into pieces, and I just like to cut the tops and the bottoms off. You don't need to peel the carrots generally. I almost always use organic carrots, so I don't generally peel them, but just cut off the tops and the bottoms and then use the center part. And then to prep the parsley for juicing, I just cut off the stems and I use like the top 2/3 of the parsley. And then as far as using ginger in this recipe, it's one of my favorite ingredients. I highly suggest including it, and I just like to cut off the skin from the ginger, and then I end up with about a 1-inch piece in total for this recipe. And then to prep your lemon or lime, which adds really nice brightness to the recipe, just cut the skin off, and then we're just gonna cut the actual fruit of the lemon or lime into pieces for the juice. And then of course the last ingredient are beets, which are the star of this juice recipe. I just cut them into thin slices that will fit into the juicer. So let's move over to my table where I have my juicer set up, and we will get on to making this juice. Okay, I've got everything set up, so I'm gonna turn on the juicer. I'm going to alternate feeding the hard veggies with the soft veggies into my juicer, and then we'll just have to run everything through, and then I'll meet you at the end and we'll give the juice a taste. got a lot of pulp from this recipe. I ended up getting 2 containers. And as I mentioned in one of my previous juicing videos, you can save this pulp. You can use it for other recipes. You can just search online for juice pulp recipes. And then we got a ton of juice. This juice is going to be so delicious, and just be warned, no matter what kind of juice you use, if you use beets, it's going to turn it a beautiful color of red. And this one is just beautiful. I love the color and I can't wait to taste it and share it with you. Once you finish juicing all the fruits and vegetables, I like to pour the juice into a jar, which I store in the refrigerator for up to 2 or 3 days. And then if the juice separates, I just give it a shake before I serve it. So let's give this homemade beet juice recipe a taste. We made it using my masticating juicer, and I think it's going to be delicious. Let me give it a taste. We get that zesty flavor of the ginger at the end, and it is sweet because of the carrots and the apples. I really can't taste the celery or the parsley, and I can't even really taste the beets that much. It is just like a sweet and spicy juice. I know it's going to be so healthy and detoxifying and cleansing for the new year. So I hope that you love this recipe, and please check out my playlist of some of my other juicing recipes, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye everybody.